Hey ACE, so here's our new study on Holzel et al. This was done in 2011, and here's the question: can meditation change your brain structure? Spoiler alert, it can. You know, it's been a long time now since we have learned of the benefits of meditation and relaxation exercises like breathing exercises and all kinds of different varieties of meditation like mindfulness meditation, body scans from head to toe. And we know it relaxes you. We know it kind of lowers your blood pressure. There's all kinds of biological and physiological connections to all the positives that this type of activity gives us. But do we actually know that it can change our brain structure? Well, this is what Holzel et al. Is trying to find out. And like I said, it kind of can. It's kind of exciting. So here we're going to learn about the brain and what mindfulness meditation can do to certain parts and certain structures of your brain. The hippocampus, actually, here's a fun fact. The word hippocampus is actually a Greek word that means seahorse. And if you extract, like post-mortem obviously, if you extract the brain structure called the hippocampus and you compare it to a seahorse and you like invert it, it looks identical, which is why it's called a seahorse, hippocampus. Anyway, here's a good a good mnemonic device to remember the hippocampus. If you see a hippo on campus, you'll remember. And this is a good mnemonic device because the hippocampus is in charge of consolidating your short-term memory into your long-term memory. So the hippocampus is in charge of memory. Can mindfulness meditation training help you increase your memory, make your memory better? Maybe so. You know, before Holzel's experiment, meditation had been used in therapies for people with anxiety problems and depression, substance abuse, eating disorders, chronic pain. The neural mechanism that might be a part of the practice of mindfulness meditation has been researched by conducting neuroimaging studies. We really can't know what it does to your brain unless we could see your brain, and that has to be through a brain scan. The Holzel et al. Team provided an overview of 6 studies that measured either cortical thickness or gray matter. All 6 studies showed a difference between the participants in the mindfulness meditation group and in those in the control group that did not attend mindfulness training. 2 areas affected the most in the brain is the hippocampus and the right anterior insula. Holzel used a longitudinal study designed to track changes across all participants over time. Okay, hold up, let's rewind just for a second. What is mindfulness meditation anyway? Because we're talking about mindfulness training, you probably should know what it is. So mindfulness meditation is kind of like the human's ability to be fully aware of who we are, where we are, and what we're doing. And it's a skill to not become overwhelmed by everything in the world and what's happening around us, so you can hone in on certain things. And mindfulness meditation, I mean, they have all different kinds out there. You can go download a how-to, or there's body scans where you just breathe and it helps relax your whole body, the muscles from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. They also even have mindfulness eating meditations where when you eat, you're like one with your food and you're really paying attention to your food. You're not eating and doing 10 things at once. So mindfulness is like hyper-focusing, like centering your awareness on what you're doing. There's mindfulness walking guides. There's all kinds of mindfulness everything. So mindfulness training, just remember, it's that ability to kind of be super aware of what you're doing in the present moment. Now, when they talk about localization of function, they're talking about brain structures and what they're supposed to do. And certain brain structures, they have a lot of jobs. Like, for example, I mentioned before, the hippocampus is in charge of your memory. Well, it's not like I was lying. It is in charge of your memory, but it's also in charge of other things too. The hippocampus performs other functions besides memory. It also has some emotional controls. It also helps with your spatial navigation. Now, the hippocampus is involved here, and they're trying to see, does the hippocampus increase function with mindfulness meditation? And as far as the amygdala is concerned, remember the amygdala is a part of the brain that helps process fear and threatening stimuli. It could save your life. It kicks you into fight or flight. It makes you, it gives you awareness that you're in emergency mode, you have to do something different. And so the amygdala is very important. Does the amygdala calm down during mindfulness meditation or get excited? The aim of the Holzel study is to investigate the potential long-term effectiveness of mindfulness meditation based on stress reduction program and to see the effect of brain gray matter density. Okay, so let's talk about the participants of this study. They were recruited for the experimental group, recruited from an enrolled mindfulness-based stress reduction program, also called MBSR courses. And it was held at the Center for Mindfulness at the University of Massachusetts Medical School. They had either been referred to this program by their physicians or they volunteered to be a part of this program and they referred themselves. They must fit the certain criteria, however. For example, they must be physically and psychologically healthy, no prescription drugs being taken, no meditation classes in the past. They have to have no more than 4 meditation courses in the last 5 years. They have nothing to prevent an MRI scan, like they can't be claustrophobic or have implants of metal in their bodies. They have to have a commitment to attend all the MBSR lessons. They have to complete some homework, which is like an audio, following some audio meditation guide for about 45 minutes per day, and they have to be right-handed. Don't ask me why, but that's what they preferred, right-handed people. Okay, you have to know the sample of participants in the experimental group and in the control group. In the experimental group, there were 16. 2 withdrew because they were uncomfortable of the circumstances regarding the MRI. And remember the criteria that can't be claustrophobic? Well, when you get into an MRI, it's kind of tight in there. So if you have the symptoms or signs of claustrophobia, you're out because it causes too much distress and that's going to violate ethical guidelines. There were 6 males and 10 females in the experimental group. The average age was 38. There were 13 Caucasians, 1 Asian, 1 African American, and 1 multi-ethnic participant. The average years of education was 17. In the control group, they had 17 people, 11 males and 6 females. The average age was 39. The majority were Caucasians with 1 Hispanic, 1 Asian person, and 1 African American. The average age was 17. All participants gave informed consent, so ethical check mark, check. Okay, so you have to know there's 3 elements to the program. The MBSR Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction Program was a total of 8 weeks. It lasted 2.5 hours. In the 6th week of the course, participants had 1 full day, which was 6.5 hours. There's 3 elements of the program. Are you ready? Body scan, mindful yoga, sitting meditation. Let's do that again. Body scan. The aim is to get the participants to feel the whole body as a whole, guided through a meditation from the top of your head to the tip of your toes. Mindfulness yoga had gentle stretching exercises through slow movements coordinated with breathing patterns. Last but not least, we have the sitting meditation, which that seems to be up my alley. I'd like to sit. Sitting meditation includes awareness of the sensation of breathing, awareness of meditation, which says you feel and pay attention to anything that comes into your awareness while you're sitting comfortably in a chair. They were given audio recordings of 45 minutes, created to be used as homework, and all were asked to practice throughout the day informally their meditation exercises. So how are they supposed to measure the outcome, you ask? I'm glad you asked. There's 2 ways. The self-report is one way. For the FFMQ, which FFMQ stands for 5-Facet Mindfulness Questionnaire. It's a 39-item questionnaire, and it was designed to measure the 5 factors of mindfulness. Are they observing, right? Are they more observant now after they had the training? Can they describe, mentally label stimuli? MRI in their awareness when they're engaging in an action? Are they acting with awareness? Are they non-judgmental of their inner experiences? Are they non-reactive to whatever circumstances are happening to them? And each of them, each item on the FFMQ is rated on a 5-point Likert scale. And this is one way they got like the measurement of how they did after the training. The other measurement is a brain scan. In this case, they're going to use an MRI. All participants were scanned twice. The MBSR participants were conducted 2 weeks prior to the program and 2 weeks after the program. The control group were scanned 2 months apart. And the regions of interest in the MRI were the hippocampus and, of course, the insula. The main analysis used was some kind of morphometry, and they were measuring tissue concentration in the fMRI and the MRI, and that's just how they're going to see the outcome. Did mindfulness meditation play a role in their psychology, which is measured by the self-report, and did it affect their brain structure, which is measured by the MRI? The insula in the cortex is located deep within the lateral sulcus of the brain, also known as the island. It's a region of the cortex that you can't see from the surface view. You have to pull it apart. Do you see the picture right above me? You have to pull it open, and that reveals the insula, which is featured here in green. The insula is important for gustatory, or is this taste sense, and also all sensory motor processing. It also monitors risk-reward behaviors. It's going to also be super sensitive to pain pathways and vestibular functioning. If you're not sure what vestibular functioning is, it's the functioning of your balance, your sense of balance. It is because of the insula that people can perceive pain, and they have the awareness of their body and their self. Some key terms, also brain structures you should know, is posterior cingulate cortex, the temporoparietal junction, the lateral area of the cerebellar hemisphere, and the cerebellovermis brainstem. Now we know that AICE is very detail oriented, so make sure you make yourself acquainted with the 5-facet mindfulness questionnaire featured here. Check out some of the descriptions and just know them. Be able to at least tell them one part of the 5-facet mindfulness questionnaire, or the FFMQ. Yep, I made a chart, and this chart kind of describes the MBSR component and how long, like the time range that the participant spent doing it. So here, engaged in the homework, that 45-minute audio thing, that was 22 hours average. Body scan practice, 699 minutes on average. Mindfulness yoga, mindfulness yoga, 327 minutes, and then sitting meditation, 332 minutes. Do you like charts? Well, here you go. Here is the conclusion. Change in gray matter as a result of the 8-week MBSR program did happen. There was a change in gray matter, and that's really important. The adult nervous system has the capacity for plasticity, and the structure of the brain can change in response to mindfulness training. This is really exciting. That means that, yes, mindfulness meditation helps you relax. That's fantastic, but it could actually change brain structure. It could change you as a person. When you're changing brain structure, you're going to change cognition and behavior. Now here's a one-stop shop place where you can kind of look at everything summed up for you, right? Here's a quick summary. What is the research method? This is going to be an experiment using a longitudinal design where they're going to follow people over a period of time. Other techniques used here, you got the self-report, right? And the brain scan with the MRI. The sample were 16 participants in the MBSR group. Originally, remember, was 18, but 2 withdrew, and 17 participants in the control group. The sample technique, people enrolled in the MBSR group, so we're going to call that a volunteer sample. Experimental design, this is called an independent measure design because the participant was either going to be in the training or not. So they're not going to be under both conditions, under one condition only. What is the IV? The MBSR training is the IV because that's the factor that you're manipulating. You're training people to mindfully meditate, and then you have your in comparison to the control group. What are they trying to find out and measure? What's your DV? The FFMQ helps with that, right? Because it's going to quantify their answers about how they're feeling after mindfulness meditation. What is the quantitative data being collected? That's the results of the FFMQ. And did they collect qualitative data? The answer is no. They did not interview anybody. They didn't ask them deep questions about how they felt about mindfulness meditation, all that stuff. No. Okay, so ACE always asks us this question about every single experiment. What is the strength and what is the weakness in the experiment? So let's look at the strengths first. It has a high level of standardization because of course it's a lab experiment, and that's great for replicability. So that's going to be very much related to the Holzel because the MBSR program, everything was done like in a lab with strict controls. Another strength about the study is like experiments. They have high levels of controls. Well, in this case with the mindfulness meditation experiment here, you're going to see that it has a lot of the same kind of testing that's repeated over and over again, like with the case of the MRI, always the same and very reliable the MRI is, and also the information that they're getting back from the surveys. Now the weaknesses could be, remember they're doing the self-reporting in the FFMQ before and after, and the participants might rate themselves based on social desirability factors. Like they know what's the right answer, they know what they should answer. So are they answering honestly? Are they answering like what you want to hear? And that's the problem with self-reporting, which is going to be on the weak side. Another weakness is that 5-factor scale used on the survey. Like, have you ever taken a survey and they didn't have your option there? They were like, okay, 1 through 5, do you feel this? Do you feel this? Do you feel this? And they don't really ask the right questions. Could it be here? They're not asking the particular right question to get all the data back. So they're seeing a little weakness there in the data collection portion of the 5-factor scale. You know the ACE always asks us certain questions about issues and debates that are near and dear to their heart, and you know they love nature nurture. So this one is strong on the nature side because it's the increase in gray matter. They're looking at the physiology of what happens to your brain structure after mindfulness meditation. Now what's the nurture side of the debate? Well, you could argue that the nurture side of the debate is the experience of the training. Aren't they being trained? And didn't we know and learn that everything that you have in your environment is some kind of learned process, right? So the nurture part could be the MBSR training that had an effect on the brain structure. Now another issue and debate that ACE will often ask us about is the application to everyday life. This is very useful for everyday life. Think about it. You can enroll in a mindfulness meditation program and it could help you, increase your state of relaxation, lower your blood pressure, makes you both healthy physically and healthy psychologically. So this has a lot of application in daily life. Now also remember, ACE will ask you about individual versus situational explanations. Well, both sides of the argument can be seen in this study. For example, what is the individual side? Well, personality types might be more or less successful doing mindfulness meditation. Some people can't concentrate long enough to mindfully meditate. So isn't that on the individual side? And then if you look at the situational side, the situation of being involved in the MBSR program might have an effect on the brain. The power of the situation. You're in a class with the people doing the same thing you are. Your instructor's telling you to do this, and you're really gung-ho about it. You're really excited about it, right? Individual versus situational explanations. You got to be able to apply the studies to these very important issues and debates, and just be ready to talk about anything. Okay, we know that at the end of the study, we fill in the grave. So here is the grave. G in grave is generalizability. And it was good. The generalizability was good, but it wasn't perfect because remember, the mean age was about in the 30s. So what did they leave out? They left out young people. They left out the geriatrics, you know, the older folks. And so, like, is it really saying that this might happen, this kind of neuroplasticity might happen with the same kind of intensity and frequency as this mean age in 30s? Like, how about the younger folks? How about the older folks? So it's not perfect, but it's pretty good because we can assume that if brain plasticity is true in your 30s, it's definitely going to be true when you're younger, because when you're younger, your brain is more elastic, more plastic. When I say the word elasticity and plasticity, remember that means your brain's ability to rewire itself and regenerate itself. So kids are more likely to recover from any kind of like brain anomaly, right? So if it's true for the 30-year-old, right, if their brain is changing due to mindfulness meditation program, then I would say kids would definitely change. Now, what about the older folks? That leaves a little question mark in my head because we know that their brain is not as elastic or plastic as the child or the 30-year-old. So the difference between a 30-year-old, right, with neuroregeneration and a 60-year-old, totally different. Now the R in grave is for replicability or reliability, and remember, it's strong. They had some strong, strict controls. It could be easily replicated, yielding the same results over time, and that would make a very good test, wouldn't it? And then applicability, very strong. This is very strong and applicable today. Like right now, you can enroll in a mindfulness meditation course, and it's going to have positive results on both your psychology and your physiology. V for validity, it was weak. The self-reporting makes it a little weak because questionnaires can be prone to social desirability and decreasing the overall validity of the experiment. Last but not least, ethics were good. Thumbs up with the ethics. I guess it's not perfect because some people had to drop out of the study because they were, you know, claustrophobic. But overall, the P's were allowed to withdraw from the study. They all had informed consent. No harm was done. And in fact, you know, for the most part, they got better after mindfulness meditation training. Now, one could argue, how do you know? Like, could the mindfulness meditation training make them worse? That's true. One could actually say that because they didn't know the outcome of the study till after they did the study. But now that we know, it's to their benefit to be in this program, and the training did them good. So ethics, thumbs up. All right, you guys, so remember, AICE, very detail oriented. You got to know the details of this study. So study, and remember, when you're testing for AICE, you're going to write your heart out. So your hand is looking like this, like the claw. Write everything and shower them with your knowledge, dazzle them with your knowledge, and earn that score.